Vytautas Mineral Spa. Atgauk jėgas ir šypseną.
Thank you so much for the introduction. What a scenery to be up on this stage. I hope you all managed to get a little bit of lunch, because now we're going to look at some inspiration. So this session is all about inspiration. So in general, it's about how to use technology to create modern-day marketing, but also to use technology how to do good in the world as well. So the first thing we're going to see today is the project called Backup Ukraine, and I'm going to unpack it a little bit and get you behind the scenes. And it's all about putting the action back in digital activism again. And then after that, we're going to look into, and hopefully I'm going to be able to serve some inspiration to you guys that you can bring home and put into your own creative process. So first thing first, let's get back to unarguably the biggest event last year and this year as well, the war in Ukraine. And the project called Backup Ukraine. And like any other project, this project started with a brief. So there you have it. That's the brief. And it's obviously not just a brief for me and my team. It's a global brief. And it's one of many global briefs out there. Stuff like climate change, human rights, and of course the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So it's one of those briefs that demands that everyone takes a stand, lean in, support, and donate if possible. A year ago, we all basically woke up to a new world. We now have war right here in Europe. And the media landscape immediately starts to look like this. And this. But also this. People now losing their homes, their lives, their families. In the first week of the war, we also saw pictures looking like this. And this. And this as well. And they made me wonder a lot, because these wrapped up statues, almost symbolizing standing dead bodies, stirred a lot of emotions with me. It also stirred a lot of questions with me, because first of all, if my country was at war, I would probably just pack up my stuff and just get the hell out of there and just leave everything behind. But secondly, if I did decide to try to save something from being destroyed by a missile, I would probably use something a little bit more impactful than some tape and some bubble wrap. But in the same week, I actually stumbled upon an interview with a guy from an organization called Blue Shield. So Blue Shield is a little bit what Red Cross is for humanitarians. Blue Shield is for cultural heritage, which means that every time a country gets into a conflict or a war, they will go in there with their volunteers, they will try to save as much cultural heritage and bring it out of the country and then install it once the war is over again. So the guy from the Blue Shield organization made this statement in his interview, saying, "Destroying a country's cultural heritage is the fastest way to erase its national identity." And suddenly everything made sense. All the pictures that I've just been seeing of all the wrapped up statues perfectly made sense. It's a direct strategy from Putin to destroy everything that is Ukrainian, to deny their very existing at all. So again, my curiosity led to me actually calling the guy from Blue Shield, because I was curious, how much is there actually to save in Ukraine? So I got on the phone and I found him and I called him and he said like, you know what, I'm going to send you something so you can get an overview of how much there is actually to save. So he sent me this map. So this is obviously a map of Ukraine. And all the blue dots are the things being listed of worth protecting of cultural heritage. There are 26,000 different things in Ukraine that is on that list of cultural importance. And if you look even closer, you can see the red dot there as well. That's the crown jewels of Europe. There's 9 of them in Ukraine. And all of those things are actually listed on the World Heritage Site list of UNESCO. So that's a lot. So while I was on the call with the guy from Blue Shield, I asked him, so what do you intend to do? How are you going to save all these things? And that actually, the range of things actually spread from being small monuments to being full-on big cathedral, and that's a lot. And things are already getting destroyed from the day one of the war. So he said, yes, we're going to reach out to all our volunteers. We're going to go there, and we're going to work with people local on ground, and we're going to bring our boxes, bubble wrap, and tape as well, and we're going to see how much we can save. And I asked him, okay, so it's 2022. What kind of technology are you used to actually speed this process up? And he said, at this moment, nothing. We're basically just praying that everything isn't destroyed once the war is over. And I thought that pretty disturbing, because today we no longer save stuff in the basement. We put it in the cloud. Everything we own today, we probably put it in the cloud if it's important. Our photos, important documents, our work life is in the cloud. Could we potentially back up the entire country's heritage in the cloud? Let's figure that out. Because at the company I work at, we use a lot of different technologies when we are creative. This is one of them. What you see here is inside a game engine. It's called Unreal Engine 5. And it's a program you're using when you want to create a video game, a music video, or GFX for a movie. So there's simple ways that you can bring in an object to this scenery. So if you want to bring in a stone, for instance, there's 3 ways. You can, first of all, you can go to a stock site, which is a little bit like buying a stock photo. You go into a site, you find your rock, you pay some dollars, and then you can place it in. That's the easy one. Then there's the hard one. That's building everything from scratch, which means you have to build the wireframe, find the texture, put it all together, and place it in the scenery. But that's a lot of work for something that probably doesn't have the biggest role in your scene. Then there's the last and third option, and that is image scanning or photogrammetry scan. That's pretty basic, and we use that a lot. So what you basically do is that you take your phone or your iPad, you download an app, you turn on the camera, you find your object, you walk around the object. It takes around 200 to 250 pictures. It takes all the pictures, put it up into the cloud. The cloud has an AI that looks at the picture, defines a pattern, and sends you down a perfect 3D model in return. It all happens within minutes, and it's super accurate. And then you could take your 3D model and you could put it into your scenery. It's a super powerful tool that we use when we're sketching up for something. It's a really, really easy tool, and it's something everyone can download if they have a smartphone or an iPad. Okay, now, could this potentially technology be used to actually start backing up Ukraine's cultural heritage? So we started by going down to our local park. This is what it looks like. We start scanning a monument, a Ukrainian monument, and we sent that footage up into the cloud. And this is what we got in return. So immediately when we saw this result, we know that we have a very powerful piece of technology. But because this one can potentially create a blueprint for a lot of things that doesn't have a blueprint, a digital blueprint. And it's accurate in size, and it also has all the different details and the patina. So if you are ever going to be restoring it, you have a perfect model to do so. So now we have the overview of how much we need to scan. We also have the technology of Polycam. Of course, we needed to get Polycam on board because they are a startup from the US. And to be fair, it's free to download the app, but if you want to use the technology and use all the different features in the app, it's $100 to run it. So we called up Polycam and asked them if they could be open to donating a few licenses for this project so we can get people scanning. And they actually turned it around and said, like, you know what? We're going to make it free for everyone in Ukraine. So everyone who downloads the app in Ukraine can use it for free. They have unlimited storage, unlimited features, unlimited access to anything. And we're going to make sure to protect all the data that we are creating for the next 100 years. Okay, so the aim, the technology, and now we need someone to actually speak of the project because we didn't want to come across as someone who's trying to sell an app during war times. That would be horrible. So we turned our friendly faces to some other friends. UNESCO. They seem to be the perfect fit for this project. But yet again, we've been working with UNESCO in the past, and to vet a project with UNESCO takes months. Sometimes it takes a year. And the reason why I have this on the screen with my signature on the top of it is because I'm super proud. This is the first time in the organization we got a project vetted within 10 days. So from the start of the pitch of showing them the project to actually them going and communicating about it and encourage people to start scanning, we had 10 days. All right. I'm going to show you a little video that sort of like summarized the project in 2 minutes. So sit back. It's a lot of loud noise, so don't be scared. Let's go.
Сейчас закинем метро, и мы кончились, поэтому если сбор денег снова...
What we're seeing here is an attempt by Putin to wipe out.
UNESCO is incredibly concerned, of course, and will be holding a special session. And there is great fear that Russia will try to simply wipe it out.
Talk about an app that was invented and allows preservation of
Ukraine's Minister of Culture and Information Policy. I'll note that he is inside Ukraine.
So this is Andrei Pervozvany monument. I decided to scan it to preserve it forever.
These monuments, they define us. We grew up with them. We will not allow anyone to take this away from us. This is our culture.
Thank you so much. We, of course, also want to share some results, because that's super important, besides all the shiny things, of course. We went from having 0 downloads of the Polycam app in Ukraine to having plus 50,000 downloads. We have more than 35 different scans of objects in Ukraine. That's, to put it into perspective, 2.5 times the inventory of the MoMA in New York. And also, we got a lot of coverage, and that's super important to highlight as well. We have like 1.3 billion impressions, 800 articles. We've been in every TV show, every morning show, every news show there is in the world. And it's super important because, again, it shows that technology can be this bright light in really, really dark times. Another point that's super important when you're doing such a project is that you're not like greasy with your ideas. Be open and share it. Do not be afraid to invite people in, because if you really want to make a global impact, you need to have people all over the world to participate. So again, this is just an overview of some of the partners that we've been working with globally and locally as well. Another great point that I want to share as well is that it's a fact that we all get tired of looking at the war. The pictures are super interesting for the first couple of months, and then we're getting tired and the media landscape change. Another thing we discover is that inside the app, there's actually a possibility to everything that's been scanned to put them in augmented reality. This is the first time that we ever documented a war in 3D, and we're using it to get young people closer to the war and really understanding, to like really drive empathy around it. So again, everyone can find everything, place it in actual size in front of them. So we're creating learning tools for schools and young people to really understand the horror of the war. So what's in the future of this project? 3 things. First thing is recreating. Of course, there's already a lot of things that already has been destroyed. But what we figured out is that the AI doesn't demand that you actually go and scan things by hand. You can basically just upload things that already exist. And I want to underline, Ukraine is a high advanced country. Like, everyone has a smartphone and everybody has access to the internet. And they also have a huge drone community in Ukraine and a lot of photographers that's actually documenting Ukraine already. So we can basically just scrape the internet and find everything and put it up into the AI and actually recreate something that's always been destroyed. A company called Skyron just did that with the theater in Mariupol. They didn't have a blueprint for it, but you can go online and search for it, and you would actually see that they actually recreated the entire theater in 3D just based on things and footage that they found on the internet. Next, of course, we want to change the project from being back up Ukraine to build up Ukraine. Hopefully, this war will be over very, very soon. And of course, all the scans that we have now collected, we need to put them into some sort of like process for all the things that need to be rebuilt. And we're working together with some of the best 3D printing companies to actually get that pipeline up and running. And last but not least, a global rollout. Unfortunately, the war in Ukraine is not going to be the last war in the world. So why wait till the war is already happening? Any country should actually start backing up their cultural heritage. Even the nation where I'm from, Denmark, we don't do such a thing. We have the museums trying to make sure that we have all the most important things. But basically, we should start scanning everything that we love and hold dear. And it doesn't matter if it is only for importance for the country, but if it has an importance for you, scan it, protect it, and again, have the ability to recreate it if it is getting destroyed. Okay. Now to the second part of this presentation, and this is the takeaway. This is where we're getting, I hope that I'm going to give you some inspiration, and hopefully also that I'm going to be able to change your mindset a little bit. Because we're talking about modern day marketing, and that's what I'm going to challenge you about. Because traditional marketing campaigns are all mouth, no hands. And what do I mean by that? I have this nice slide that hopefully is going to show the journey that you have to take to create modern day marketing. And instead of creating communication, try to be a facilitator instead. We are so obsessed with actually creating a piece of communication that can enable people to change their behavior. But why not facilitate to be able for people to actually make that change of behavior? And instead of spending hours of creating a message so it hits right and it's snappy, try to create a tool for people to use that's much more powerful. And we're so used to actually look at people as a group of an audience, but why not look at them as volunteers that can actually be an active part of what you're creating? And last but not least, stop prompting, stop believing that basically the more times that you're actually putting your message out there, that it's going to change people's perspective. Try to enable them, get into a direct dialogue with people, and start to give them the tools that they need to actually do that change. So take a picture of this, use it as a blueprint for your next project, campaign, whatever you're doing, and I'm sure that you will have a much more modern piece of communication. Another thing that I want to address as well is the tools that are already available for all of us. Because today, a lot of us see platforms as channels, like social media is a channel, like a Skype call is a channel, but it's actually a tool. So I'm going to see if I can provoke you to think about these different digital things as tools instead of channels. So I'm going to run through 5 of them and give you some concrete inspiration on how we see them as tools instead of channel. The first thing is XR. XR covers a lot of things: augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality as well. And most people see it as an opportunity to use for making a filter or a pair, make a digital layer on top of the real world. But you can also use it for something much better than that. You can use it to actually give people the opportunity to learn. And what you see on the screen is a project we did a few years ago, and it's from the anniversary of the Berlin Wall's fall. I remember as a kid going to Berlin, and there was someone to try to explain the story of the wall and the importance of the wall, and it was boring because the wall wasn't even there. So we teamed up with the DDR Museum in Berlin and Minecraft, and we created a project that allows people to actually tear down the wall in augmented reality. I have a little bit of a video here, so let's see that.
This wall is still a kind of ghostly presence here. I mean, it's not like you can avoid it.
It was very hard to live in our GDR.
Die Mauern, die noch in den Köpfen besteht, die kann man nur selber einreißen.
In older generations, it was something real, but in my generation, it's more like a pop cultural thing.
I wouldn't say it matters at all today.
Most people don't know anything about it.
Minecraft Earth is a brand new game which mixes Minecraft with Pokemon Go. So you throw down something called a build plate, and you can either fit an entire house on a table, or you can go supersize.
Games are effective for learning because they provide this first-hand experience. You get to see the things that the people might have seen through actually engaging with the subject. You can create a well-rounded understanding of it.
We rebuilt parts of the Berlin Wall inside Minecraft Earth and placed them on the exact locations where they used to stand.
Through this immersion, you get a very strong emotional connection to the space. So instead of an observer, you become actually a witness of it.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
This is the first educational tool for Minecraft Earth, and all the build plates are available for everyone. We are giving the next generation the possibility to tear down the wall in augmented reality. Because we don't want to see another wall in reality.
So of course, this was launched during the pandemic as well. And the great thing about this is that you don't have to be in Berlin to actually tear down the Berlin Wall. So these build plates was available for anyone. So no matter if you're in the States or any other place in the world, it's still pretty relevant because people are still building walls around the world. So again, it's a good conversation starter for young people to really understand what is the horrible thing about walls in this world. The second topic is telepresence. So when I was growing up, there was two things that really made a promised future for me, like what I imagined would be in the future. The first thing was flying cars. We're not right there yet, but we probably will be at some years. But the second thing was telepresence, the ability to have a conversation with another person that you're not in the same room, but in a visual version of it. So either through a hologram or through a screen. Now we have it, and we've gotten so used to it. So during the pandemic, we all got accustomed to actually communicate through different type of calls, Zoom, Google, whatever. So we are taking it for granted. But it is actually a tool. It's not just a channel. It's something that you can unite people around, or you can use it as a platform to stir things up. You can also demonstrate in there. So there's a lot of opportunities with this technology that's free and available for all. I think we all know that there's going to be a recession just around the corner. At least that's what we've been talking around for the last 18 months, that it's going to happen next week. I'm not sure it's going to come, but if it does, there will be people losing their jobs. But there will also be people who would actually have to take another job interview. And a lot of those would actually happen through such a thing. So Google, who is also a provider of these type of technologies, instead of just creating a campaign explaining how great their product was, they actually created something else. Something that could warm people up to having that interview for their next job. And it's a free tool. I'm just going to show you a little bit of how that looks.
With Interview Warmup, the goal is to create the safe space where you could practice as many times as you like.
Let's practice an interview for project management.
I would prefer the agile method.
Because I'm very passionate about troubleshooting.
As well as data interpretation and storytelling.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. Now you can review your answers.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm back. The AI is basically analyzing your replies, and it all happens on voice with your own language. And it's so clever that it can constantly train you with new questions and optimize your ability to actually be good at an interview. Again, is this a campaign? Is it a tool? But what I believe it is, it's modern marketing. And it's one of the things that I believe that we should stir to create when we actually want to engage our audience. The third thing is machine vision. And machine vision is not what it looks like here, that everything has eyes and the camera all over the place. Machine vision is basically what we consider being big data back in the days, which means that you can use data to see things in a different light. When we're brainstorming and creating ideas at the place where I work, we use data to always get a second opinion, because it opens up for something different. It's fact-based instead of being emotional. And that can actually be a good lens when you actually have to create something. So again, this is just a reminder, whatever project you're getting into, try to see if you can gather the right amount of data to see things from a different perspective. The next project I'm going to show you here as a piece of inspiration is from a media. And they are talking about a very specific thing that needs to be shined a bit of light on. And that is what happens when people are getting missing. And there's a bias gap here, because unfortunately, if you are a blonde white woman, you will get much more attention if you are a male Asian person. So they use big data to actually highlight that skewed thing.
And missing white woman syndrome was coined in 2004 by the journalist Gwen Ifill, who noticed that women, especially white women who went missing, got a lot more press coverage than everybody else. Anybody can go to the website and they can see how the media coverage would be if they went missing versus the rest of the country. So this isn't based on intuition, it's not based on an assumption, it's based on data pulled from news coverage.
So again, this website allows you to see how much press coverage you would actually get if you went missing. I didn't get a lot. I got 8 articles and 1 international story, that's it, and then my story's out. And I think it's a really, really good tool to have the conversation starting. And again, it's a good use of machine vision. Again, this data is only, or this idea is only unlocked to its data. Number 4, collaborative tech. I think most of the people, as I can scan in the room here, was growing up with the free internet. The thing where we were surfing around, we were visiting websites, and we were building our own websites. Then suddenly the internet became social media, and the internet was called Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Now we've seen a rise of Web3, and I just want to remind everyone, I don't have a concrete example here, but I just want to remind everyone that there's different opportunities to organize your next project outside the big social media platforms. So take them into consideration. Some of the new things that's coming around is DAOs, that's just one thing, like smart contracts, wikis, Gits, and so forth. Again, the internet is about to turn free again with Web3. So again, next time, try to see not if you can start your project not on Facebook, but somewhere else where you can rally people or create your own community. It's just a note. Last but not least, virtual selfhood. So from memes to Instas to Tumblrs to personalities and avatars. I think if you have kids and they're old enough to have a smartphone, and they also have access to a social media platform, you will probably realize that they not only have one social account, they probably have multiples. Because young people say, I'm not singular. And this shows a trend for brands as well. Brands shouldn't be singular, and they should also be able to bring in their persona and recreate and reenact their full embody their brand and tonality as a person. So could an avatar actually potentially be an asset for a brand in the future, or for an event in the future, or whatnot? I think the example that I'm going to show you now is from a fast food restaurant called Wendy's in the US. So if anyone has been to Wendy's in the US, they would know that they do burgers, and they do not do them from frozen beef, they do it from fresh beef. And they also have a very nice logo of this lovely girl with 2 red ponytails. So Wendy's, of course, have a logo, they have a tonality, but they also want to bring their logo or their persona into 3-dimensional. So they jumped into probably the biggest platform, the biggest virtual world there is now, Fortnite. They discovered that there was an ongoing battle between 2 teams, Team Pizza and Team Burger. And instead of trying to help Team Burger, they actually embedded themselves into their battle and became a conversation starter. So again, they put their brand into 3D, and I'm going to show you how that looks.
We found out Team Burger stored their beef in freezers. And Wendy's doesn't do frozen beef. So we got on Twitch, chose a character with red hair and pigtails, dropped into the game, And instead of killing other players, we started destroying burger freezers. Again and again and again, for 9 hours straight.
Again, a really, really nice example of how you can actually turn your logo into a 3D object and actually create an avatar around it. We're getting to the end here of the presentation, so I'm just going to make a quick summary before we're getting into a Q&A if anyone have any questions. So the summary here is, through creative applications like XR, we can put the action back into digital activism. So first of all, the first point you need to remember is connecting a cause and a technology. Secondly, see if you can connect partners, networks, and volunteers. Again, as I mentioned earlier, stop seeing people as an audience, see them as volunteers, people who can actually help you. And be generous with your ideas, spread it out, let people be a part of it if they want to. And last but not least, the most important thing, remember to connect the virtual and the physical world at the same time. Don't just do one of them. Remember to bring in both. And always start thinking of the other, even though it's not in the brief. So if you do all these three things, I'm sure that this will be a roadmap for you to create powerful, impactful campaigns in the future. My last slide here is basically with a QR code. If you are fast, you can scan it, and there we have a link to something called HoloLink. There you can actually visit some of the things that we have been scanning in Ukraine. There's also a button if you want to donate, if you feel like it. And last but not least, my last remarks is that the war might not be happening here, but it's happening now. So remember to support. Thank you so much for your attention.
And now it's an opportunity that you have to use it, so maybe the audience has some questions? Don't be shy. Yeah, we see one hand, so please.
Thank you for this presentation. It was really interesting. I was watching mouth open, because I like those things which are related with IE and technology. So it was a pleasure to be here and watch your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You can say thank you. You can ask some questions.
Or else I'm going to be here the rest of the day. People can point me on the shoulder and say, what about this thing?
Okay.
So
we are allowed to touch you, right?
What?
We are allowed to touch you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm saying thank you. It was a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you.